Essay 200, Standards on Auditing. 200, Overall objectives of the independent auditor and conduct of an audit in accordance with the standards on auditing. I will write here overall objectives of the independent auditor and conduct of an audit accordance with SA. With SA. What is the overall objectives? What is the objective of the independent auditor? Very simple. To express opinion. This is the overall objective of the auditor. What is the opinion? What is the opinion? Whether the financial statement are prepared in accordance with the applicable FRF and financial statement as a whole. This is the primary objective. Whole are free from material misstatement whether due to fraud or error. So overall objective of the auditor is to express opinion that financial statement is true and fair view, as previously explained. The opinion expressed by the auditor is common to all audits of the financial statement, and financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement whether due to fraud or error. So this is the main point in the essay 200, and also it says independent, not influenced by the others, not influenced by the client in personal matter or a financial matter. It should not be influenced. Auditor should be independent, and the conduct of an audit in accordance with the standards on auditing. So standards on auditing should be applied while auditing the firm or a company or an audit engagement. So this is the essay 200. The main important point is is that professional judgment and professional skepticism should be followed by the auditor. So overall objective of independent auditor and the conduct of audit in accordance with the standards requires Auditor has to plan and perform audit with the professional skepticism. Plan and perform the audit with the professional skepticism. What is a professional skepticism? Professional skepticism. What is this? This is an attitude that includes a questioning mind, always alert, being alert to condition which may be include indicate possible misstatement due to error or fraud, and a critical assessment of audit evidence. So it is always questioning mind. The point is questioning mind. Being alert. This is the main but the question can be asked on professional skepticism itself. So mention SA 200 should be mentioned, and what is the professional skepticism mentioned, why it is required mention, meaning of the professional skepticism should be mentioned, and how it reduces the risk. How it reduces risk. Professional skepticism reduces risk. Risks of risk of what? Overlooking unusual circumstances. Overlooking unusual circumstances. Overgeneralizing when drawing conclusion from audit observation. Overgeneralizing when drawing conclusions from audit observation. This is overlooking unusual circumstances, overgeneralizing when drawing conclusion from the audit observation, using inappropriate assumption. So this is all professional skepticism reduces the risk of using the inappropriate assumptions in determining nature, timing, extent of audit procedures, and evaluating the result. And being alert to what? Being alert to what? If there is a contradictory audit evidence. If there is a contradictory evidence, auditor has to be in a doubtful to take decision, have to be alert. Questions on reliability, of documents, conditions indicating possible frauds, last one, circumstances suggesting need for audit procedure in addition to those suggested. So additional audit procedures required, if required audit procedures. So this is all about the professional skepticism. So in case if a question asked about the discuss with the reference to standards auditing, the auditor is responsible for maintaining an attitude of professional skepticism throughout the audit. It is asked in question. So you have to mention the standard, what is the name of the standard, Why it is required? Professional skepticism, I said, informed to plan and perform the audit with the professional skepticism. This standard is required. So why it is required, that has to be mentioned. What is the meaning of professional skepticism, that has to be mentioned. What professional skepticism reduces the risk, that has to be mentioned. Then the being alert to what, that has to be mentioned. Being alert to what. So if you go back, we explained everything. So the standard, why it is required, plan and perform the audit, that this is required. Then the meaning of the professional skepticism, questioning mind, attitude that includes a questioning mind, being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement due to error or fraud, and a critical assessment of audit evidence. Then we talked about the next page. Professional skepticism reduces the risk of these things: overlooking unusual circumstances, overgeneralizing, drawing conclusion from audit observation, using inappropriate assumptions, in determining the nature, timing, extent of audit procedures, and evaluating the results. Then we discussed about the being alert to being alert to contradictory audit evidence, questioning reliability of documents, feasible possible frauds, conditions indicating possible frauds, circumstances suggesting need for additional audit procedures. These all with regard to professional skepticism. So what is the opinion expressed by the auditor? Is it assurance? Is it assurance? This is asked by the ICI. Is it assurance to the future viability of the enterprise, or is it efficiency or effectiveness with which management has to conduct of the efforts of the the enterprise? Efficiency or effectiveness with which management has conducted not conducted what the efforts of the enterprise. Is it that? This is one question asked by the ICA. Is it assurance? Opinion expressed by the auditor, is it assurance? No. Is it assurance? Yes, it can be assurance, but it is not absolute assurance. It is not absolute assurance. This is the important point. This is not absolute assurance, not a conclusive assurance. It is a reasonable assurance. This is a reasonable assurance. Okay, reasonable assurance. So this is a very important point. Not absolute assurance, reasonable assurance. The main objective is to express the opinion. That opinion, is it absolute assurance? No, it is just a reasonable assurance. So in order to give reasonable assurance, auditor has to require to obtain reasonable assurance about whether financial statement as a whole free from material mismatch and whether due to fraud or error. And then so auditor opinions therefore does not assure the future viability of the entity, and nor it is the efficiency or effectiveness with which management has to conduct with the affairs of the enterprise. No, it is not. Opinion is just on the financial statement. on the financial statement, whether it is a true or fair. So it is not a absolute assurance, just a reasonable assurance after obtaining necessary, sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, and it is not a efficiency or effectiveness with which management has conducted with the affairs of the enterprise. So this is the another main point. So if you study material, if you see the study material, it says SA 200 is the name of the overall objectives of the independent auditor and the conduct of an audit in accordance with the standards on auditing. SA 200. It establishes the independent auditor's overall responsibility when conducting audit of financial statements in accordance with the standards on auditing. Specifically, it sets out the overall objective of the independent auditor and explains the nature, scope of an audit designed to enable the independent auditor to meet those objectives. It also explains the scope, authority, structure of the standards on auditing, includes a requirement establishing the general responsibility of the independent auditor applicable in all audits, including the obligation to comply with the standards on auditing. The important part will come now. It has to be adapted as necessary in circumstances when applied to the audits of historical financial information. This standards on auditing requires that the auditor has to obtain reasonable assurance, not a absolute assurance. It is asking a question by the ICI. So reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. The standards on auditing require that the auditor exercise professional judgment. One more question is asked from here: professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the planning and performing of the audit, among the other things. Identifying the assess the risk of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, based on understanding of an entity, its environment, including the entity's internal control, that SA 315 and 330. Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about the whether material misstatement exists throughout the designing and implementing the appropriate response to the assessed risk, that is mentioned in SA 500 501. Form an opinion on the financial statements based on the conclusion drawn from the audit evidence obtained. So as explained in these standards, SA 700, SA 705, 706, 720. So this is the standards on auditing 200. Thank you.